I have a abduction experience that I'd like to share because it's sort of disturbing. The experience occurred in May 2004, and it was the build-up to it is that I had this strange feeling for months that some other presence was in my head, something that was not talking to me, not visible to me, but like watching me from behind in my mind. And I could detect it, but I didn't really know what it was. But I felt like it was spying on me, it was listening to me, it was watching me, it was there. And I didn't know what to do about it or what it was. And then months went by, and it became, it seemed like an ominous presence, but it wasn't mean, it was just there. I could detect it, but I didn't know what it was. But then, one day, I had this feeling, and it was a contact with some kind of other being, some other entity that was, I believe, in a UFO, a spacecraft somewhere near. And then this entity that was inside of me gave this kind of communication with that being. So I could, at that point, had communication with that, or not communication, but I had a feeling of what had just gone on. Something inside of me had communicated with something out there, and that was really strange. That was, what was it? It was no words. It was, we're coming for you, there was an excitement of this presence that was inside of me. It was an excitement of, oh, finally, I'm going to go back with my people for some little reason, for something. And I felt like, what is this? And I knew that it was something that was an ET presence, that it was an ominous presence. And it really got me mad that there was something inside of me that I couldn't do anything about, and it wanted to do something to me. And then I said to myself, I've got to do something. I can't be powerless in this experience. And so I said, I'm going to stand up. The only thing I could do was meditate. And then I said, I'm going to do a self-hypnosis. I'm going to hypnotize myself so that if something happens, I'll get awake. I'm not going to go into this and just be a victim. And I knew that there was something happening that night. And so I went and I sat down and I started meditating, and I started thinking. I started trying to come up with a plan. And so I came up with the plan. My plan consisted of 3 words: awake, attack, escape. And that was the 3 words I kept on saying to myself as I went deeper and deeper in this meditation. I wanted to awake, I wanted to attack, I wanted to escape. I didn't want to be a victim, yet I knew something was happening. And of course I did fall asleep late that night. And then I woke up because my command inside of me told me to awake. And where did I awake? I awoke in this room that everybody describes. It's the operating room of the gray ETs. It's exactly as they say. It's white all around. There's a big instrument above. There's a real ominous presence of all these UFO entities, these grays, these kind of tall, gangly gray beings with the big eyes, and they were peering right over me. And I was, at that point, I had just awoken, and they were taken by surprise. And at that point, I went pow, 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 and I hit them. and I knocked them over, and I knocked one to the side. This I did just in the a split second, because I had known some martial arts training and karate, and I just took them by surprise. And then I saw this door right over away from the table that I was on, and I rushed towards the door, and I rushed and I pushed it open. And this was before the ETs had seen me, had gotten up. And so then I pushed through, and it was this corridor, like a hallway, and it was all white, but I could see doors on this side and that side and this side and that side. And I was running down the hallway, and I was trying to get away. I didn't know where I was going to escape. I had already awoken, I'd already attacked, but I had to escape now. So I ran, and I could see on the right there was this one door. So I said, okay, I'll try this door. So I pushed through this door, and what did I see? I came inside, and I saw these piles of human skeletons. It was like a pile of 6 to 8 skeletons here, another pile here, another pile here, another pile here. It was like, what were they doing with these human skeletons piled up by the wall? And I walked down, and I saw that there was, it didn't look like they were had any meat on them. They looked perfect. In fact, they looked like they were medical specimens of skeletons. And I got down on my knees, and I looked at one of them down at the very end, and it was a smaller one. But I took it, and I looked at it closely, and I felt it, and it felt like plastic. This wasn't bone, this was plastic. And I shook it, picked it up a little, and the whole thing stayed together as if it had wire running through it. But it didn't have a skeleton head, it was just a skeleton frame. So then I went and I looked closely, and it looked like there was a little bit of red kind of material right around the joints area. And so this, and I said, well, what could this be? Why would there be piles of human skeletons inside of an ET area with their operating rooms and such? So I went, and I said, well, I can't wait here any longer. So I got up, and I kept on going down past the skeletons, and then there was another corner, and I turned the corner, and then I saw more rooms, more doors, but these are smaller rooms. So I said, well, maybe this one leads to the escape. And so I took and I opened one of the rooms, and I looked inside, and what did I see? I saw one of these gray ETs, but this was I saw him with his ET head, but this ET body, this gray body, had been taken and stretched over one of these skeletons, one of these plastic skeletons. And the ET looked at me like he was in so much misery. As even though he had abducted me, I felt sorry for the being, even though it was, obviously sitting there in probably pain or something. But the interesting thing about it is that his body, his ET body, had only come down and covered this part, the upper trunk of the skeleton frame, and yet his ET body, his legs were hanging out this way, and the rest of the skeleton legs were propped out in front of him. And he took and he placed a hand across and kind of like pointed down towards his foot, but sort of like as if he was going to grab me or something, over towards me. And I go, no, I don't I don't want to be touched by that thing. And so I backed away from it, and it, as I could see it, it looked like, is this the future? Are we going to see these beings walking around with practically human-looking skeletons? And he looked like all he needed was to have some kind of mask put over his face, and after they're done, they could pass as human beings in our culture. So this was really disturbing to me, and I went and I pushed myself back, and I continued down the hallway, and then I got to the end of the hallway, and I went and I pushed open a door, and it looked like it was going out into the outside. So I jumped outside and made a break for it. I escaped, and then, but I don't know if I really escaped or something, because I woke up the next morning and I felt, well, my arm had been dislocated, and it hurt for another year after that, and it felt like somehow my arm had been practically yanked off my body. I was in so much pain and misery, but I felt like I was in a drugged or a dozed state, as if I had just been given an overdose of pain medication, and I could barely move, and I was just in so much agony, yet I could still feel that presence that was still inside me, and I go, oh no. And so then I went on, I got up, I went to work, and this presence had not left me until I took a class in psychic surgery. And I had a teacher who was a spirit teacher who taught me about this psychic surgery. And I went on to write a book called Light Body Activation and Psychic Surgery. It's available on Amazon. And what my teacher did, though, was to come behind me one day in the spirit form and to actually reach his spirit hands right into my head and to grab that being, that spirit presence, that light body presence that was an alien being, and grabbed it right out of my body, and then just held it. And I could see when it was going up, it was a hybrid. It looked like a miniature human gray hybrid, but it was a baby, and it looked sort of cute. But I could feel it communicating with me, like, please don't make me go, don't make me go. But I could see it floating up towards the ceiling, and good riddance. And I just got to warn people, is that now you can see, or what I saw is that these ETs, they're going to be walking around among us looking like humans, with the human skeleton structure. There's only a few differences that I could see that were different than a regular human structure, is that across the back it looked like there was the bones were pretty much fused together to have greater tensile strength of the body, of the skeleton body. And I think that they also have extremely high physical strength, because what's inside of these bodies is not just a really hard skeleton, but I think what it is motorized, and they have the ability to actually lift great weights with this new skeletal structure, and they can do practically superhuman things. So you don't know who you're going to be talking to. If these grays in these new bodies gain a foothold in this world, forget it. You don't know who you're talking to. So I've just got to warn you.